Welcome to our Launchpad Live community call for March. I'm Tim Miranda. I'm Provider Success Manager here at Pega with Launchpad. Purpose of this call is to introduce some stuff that's new and exciting in Launchpad and some different ways of doing things. So we'll go through three topics today. A new ability to use AI to generate sample data when you're previewing your app, and a new capability with our GenAI Connect rule. And then finally, we'll talk about building insights within Launchpad Studio and the cool preview capabilities that we have. Anytime during this, if you want to submit questions, we can get to those at the end. And then we'll wrap it up. We'll talk about some upcoming events and go from there. All right, so like I said, I'm Tim Miranda. We have three speakers today from our product management organization. We have Chloe from Case Management, Adam from our User Experience and Insights, and Dilip from our Low Code Studios. And they're going to be walking us through several features in Launchpad. This this live call is mostly for existing providers, so people that are using Launchpad, building their applications, and want to get deeper into it. But of course, if you're new to Launchpad or looking at it, please stick around. We'll be showing off different aspects of Launchpad that you'll probably be interested in. All right, cool. So we're going to start. We're going to introduce Chloe and talk about this new feature using AI to generate sample data. Chloe, welcome. I know that in my role, I get to demo Launchpad to folks pretty often. And I love this idea that the platform now has like a one-click way to quickly fill in a form using the AI so I can show off my app to my stakeholders. Tell me a little bit about this new feature.
Well, a good way to think about this feature is that it's really a developer productivity accelerator for prevailing cases. So when developers are currently building an application in Launchpad now, a big part of their workflow is constantly previewing the case. So just to check whether the forms behave correctly, whether validations work, and whether the overall flow makes sense. But the friction comes from the time that every time they preview, they have to manually fill in a lot of fields, things such as like names, like emails, dates, and this gets repetitive very fast, as you can imagine. So when we observe that a typical enterprise, they have maybe 10 to 20 fields in a particular assignment, the developers can easily spend a minute just filling in the data. And when you multiply that across many iterations, it really slows down the development. So what this feature really does is very simple on the surface. It introduces a few form with AI buttons at the bottom of every assignment during preview. So when the developer clicks on it, the system automatically populates all the editable fields with realistic sample data.
Cool. Why don't you show us this working? I'd like to see more about this. Okay, cool. So creating a case here. Oh, I see this new button, the fill form with AI. Yeah, that's great. Like you said, as I'm iteratively developing the app, I want to try it out. I don't have to keep filling in the same forms or manually create some sample data to choose from and try to pre-fill that. So let's see this. So show me. So how does it know like what type of data to fill into each field? Obviously, it's not random. It seems to be contextual. How does it know what's needed for each field?
So what's cool about this feature, as you mentioned just now, is that the AI is not generating values in isolation. It's using both the field level information as well as case context to guide what it produces. So on the field level, the system has signals such as what's the field type, so whether it's a date or email or a phone number or currency. And on the field name, it has the field name itself, which gives it semantic meaning. And on top of that, it also has access to the broader form context, such as what is the case type is in, what is the case description, and even the stage of the workflow. So this helps AI understands the overall scenario that the developer is working in. So for example, imagine that you're working in a pet care case type, and you are trying to schedule a vet visit for your cat. So if there's a field such as the appointment date, the AI will generate a specific return that is for date time. And if there is a few like description of issue, the AI will take into consideration the pet care context and generate something more meaningful, like the cat has not been eating well for the past week, instead of just generic placeholder text. So the goal here is to generate plausible, usable business data that will help the developer to move through the form very quickly.
And then if I'm previewing, if I'm demoing this or trying it out, if I've typed in any information, does it get overridden when I click that button, or what happens with that?
No, it does not get overwritten. This is something that we are very intentional about. So whenever data is applied, fields that the developer has already manually filled in is not overwritten by AI. So the AI only fills in the gaps. It helps to complete the form but respects whatever is already on the form itself. And at the same time, the developer can choose to override some of the values that is written by AI very quickly, say if they want to test edge cases or whatnot. Outside of that, we also make sure that this feature is very safe by making sure that is strictly an altering time feature. Is only available to provider developers when they're previewing the application, so it does not appear at all in runtime and subscriber users will never see it. Developers also have control over whether they want to enable this capability to begin with, so they can choose to enable or to disable this particular feature in app settings.
That's great. Cool. So, yeah, that's awesome. A great productivity boost for developers here, and I like that it's really kind of targeting the developers that are iterating through their app. We don't have to worry about this affecting the actual end users of the subscribers. Kind of nice isolated feature. Yeah, I love it. This is great. Appreciate it, Chloe. And yeah, I think that covers it. I'm actually been using this already today.
That's great.
I'm working on, so very exciting. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time on this one, Chloe.
Thank you.
All right, cool. So next one, I'm gonna bring Dilip in here from Low Code, and let's talk about the GenAI Connect rule. So we've introduced the GenAI Connect rule in the past. Great way to have LLM calls and summary and analysis directly built into your workflow. Dilip, tell me about this new capability with the GenAI Connect rule and working with attachments.
Tim, I'm pretty excited to talk about this new feature that is called as attachment analysis. And I'm sure a lot of provider developers have adopted this GenAI Connect, which is a seamless way to integrate AI into your applications and enhance them. Now, this particular capability is even more tremendous because developers can now configure the GenAI Connect tool to analyze various attachment types. The files can be images, documents, Word, PDFs, etc. And it purely depends on the models. But again, the benefit is that your end users, whenever they upload attachment receipts or any kind of documents, you can open up the opportunity for your workflows to summarize or extract the data automatically or process the data in a more meaningful way because you're now having the power of large language model sitting inside your workflows, and it tremendously improves your end user productivity as well as your application experience.
Yeah, cool. This is one of the great parts about Launchpad here is that attachments and files, they're not treated separately. They're part of your business data, right? So they're fields in your model and they can be used here as well as a bunch of other places, just like all the data you collect from the user. So show me the how this is working here.
Yeah. So let's imagine we have view plus expense management in which we have a manual way of entering all the fields. So which is what is a troublesome thing. But now I'm automating it with AI, which means whenever my end users upload images of expenses, I wanted to extract them automatically. So I created an GenAI Connect rule and I'm proceeding to configure. So by just enabling the checkbox that says enable this checkbox to do the attachment analysis, you get this capability, and then you select your field in which the attachment content is present. So it is that simple. Now, in this case, I'm also configuring the output structure in which the LLM has to respond. This is even more powerful and a new capability that we have launched in GenAI Connect rule, where you are indicating the large language model that when you extract the data, you have to fill the data into these fields automatically. And you're no longer bound to your primary, in this case, as an expense submission. You can actually choose a case or data object as well, which you are framing. So this adds even more power, and it lifts the need for you to map the fields in a JSON transform, and we are doing it automatically for you. So in this case, I'm also configuring the automation to consume the output, Tim.
Right. Yeah, no, that's great because I mean it's so easy to call the LLM using the GenAI Connect rule from a step in my workflow. And with the structured output, it's using the power of the LLM to say, look, if this is the kind of structure I expect back, I've got data types, I've got embedded data, whatever I've defined in my data model in my application, and it's able to just directly map those back. And so it's sort of a one step, be able to call the LLM, get the response, get that back in my business data model, and go from there. Very cool. So now we're seeing, so for the end user here, you mentioned like when they're uploading a file here, it's going to get analyzed by the LLM, that there's a set of supported file types. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like what choices the users have? Does it depend on the LLM, et cetera?
Sure, Tim. So we have a lot of models that are already supported in Launchpad. When you choose agents or GenAI Connect tools, you can choose the model providers, etc. And the capability to analyze files is purely depend on the models. And in my experience, all the latest and greatest models, and especially the Pega default fast and Pega default smart ones, are capable of analyzing various file extensions that includes images, documents, and PDFs. So that's something that I really like about the power of Launchpad is we are abstracting the complexity for you, and you can choose any model of your choice that is provided, and you can get the functionality pretty sure. Now, my experience again says like Gemini models are even more aggressive, and they add a ton of accuracy and reliable results. So you can always try those, but feel free. Your Pega Default Fast and Smart are also great models. So for your use case, if it is about analysis or extraction, it purely depends on your use case.
Yeah, that's great. This is a great add-on for the GenAI Connect because, traditionally in other types of platforms and stuff, I might need to set up some sort of like, file parsing or extraction or use an external service or something. Here, since the GenAI Connect, like you said, abstracts out a lot of the complexity of even using an LLM, I can just drop this in to my workflow, have an automation, call it, get the response back, and be able to do real file analysis, whether, like you said, it's extracting, identifying information, fields that are needed, or doing summarization or, finding things in documents and figuring out the next steps in my business logic. This looks like that this is really easy. I've actually started using this in some of my provider applications that I'm helping with. It just works. So that's cool. Now, some of the so I am using some of my existing apps. Um, do I have to change anything here? Like if I've already got GenAI Connect, built into my workflows, do I need to do anything with those existing GenAI Connect calls, or do they work as is?
Yeah, the new functionality that we brought does not affect your existing Connect rules. They'll work the way they are. But like I said, this new functionality of extracting automatically and mapping to the response structure that you expect is even a better way. So you can always upgrade, or for your new enhancements in your workflows, you can always use this feature. Whether it is for attachment analysis or basic GenAI Connects, it is supported in both of them.
Awesome. Yeah, no, this is great. Looking forward to what else will be coming in the future with the GenAI Connect rule here. Anything else you want to add for this one?
No, I would love for our provider developers to use this and brag about this feature because this is pretty easy, and our functionality is always easy to configure and easy for your end users to experience for greater applications. Thanks, Tim.
Awesome. Thanks, Tilly. All right, cool. So we're moving on to our third topic. I'm going to bring Adam into the conversation here. We've had insights with Launchpad to be able to build visualizations, whether they're tables, graphs, charts, things like that. But we want to walk through how easy it is to do it these days with the preview data being used to show the information as you're configuring your insight. So Adam, tell me a little bit more about this feature.
Yeah, no, thanks, Tim. This one's really exciting for me. To be able to access that preview data when you are doing things within your application, whether it's data exploration or building content like insights and landing pages, to be able to see that data, number one, it's just more visually appealing, right? It's more interactive. And for those of us that are, consider ourselves data enthusiasts, it's really great to see the impact of your actions as it's happening real time. So things such as adding groups to your table or your charts, changing the sort or the filter or other information, it really comes to life in front of you. And it really gives you a little bit of clarity around what you're actually looking at. For instance, if I'm on a dashboard, I might have a bunch of different insights, and I'd like to better understand the content of each one to be able to arrange it in the most meaningful way. And it really just gives you that overall ease of use and showing, unlocking more feature sets and things that you're doing during your authoring experience.
Cool. Yeah, so why don't we see what this looks like? Because as a developer, like, where will I see this preview data? Where can I take advantage of this when I'm configuring all these different things related to insights?
Sure, yes. And so you'll see this in several different places. So here you'll see it right as you start exploring data. So this is how you access the data in your application. You want to show that in a table. You want to, create a chart or a KPI. And then ultimately saving that as an insight that can be used in other places in your application as well. So this is where that comes to life. And as I mentioned, being able to change grouping and sorting and see things happen in real time. And also when you are adding that to a landing page and authoring that there, whether that's just a landing page with a list of data, if that's a dashboard that you see here with a bunch of different representations of your data, it allows you to basically add those, arrange those, and make that really come to life. As well as when you're creating views in your application. So you're able to show that data. It makes things easier for you to understand as you're building it what that ultimate experience for your subscriber and your user base is going to be.
So this is using the same data that I have in preview. I don't have to move any data around, right? So as I'm demonstrating the app to stakeholders or trying out things or verifying a new feature as I'm building the app, I'm building up cases and data records and things in my preview session, and that stuff's just going to show up here.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So this is great because that's that same data like that I want my stakeholders to kind of see like, look, this is my vision for the dashboard. Is this meeting what you're looking for? And so as a developer, being able to kind of see that myself before I even like make that available for other people to see, or launch preview and try out other parts of the app. I love that I can see that as I'm configuring the insight, and I can see that as I'm configuring the views that I'm going to be dropping that insight into, whether they're dashboards, list views, other places. This really kind of pulls it all together here. What else? So as I'm configuring these visualizations, like I can see here, like my pie charts filled in, my bar charts there. Where else can I kind of see the preview data, like as I'm dealing with the insights?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, number one, as you mentioned, preview, saving time on having to preview to see this stuff, but there's also other features that really come to life with this capability. Top of mind for me is drill down within a chart. And that's something where I'm able to see multiple levels of data and really understand my data structures better. Similarly, when you are drilling down within your charts, there's that underlying view of records when you get to the bottom, right? I want to identify a subset of data, and I want to go and I want to see those records. That lowest level can actually be configured as well. So this also helps that, helps you tailor it to your use case, as well as you can see the promoted filters on the top there, whether it's an insight or a page, and that allows more for that ad hoc style of filtering and querying to see your data come to life as you need to see it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is great. This really makes it fast to be able to configure the visualizations I need. And yeah, I already have providers starting to use this. They love that they can see kind of like exactly what they're going to get when they're showing off the app here in preview. And they can control this too. It's not generated data or made up data. It's what they have in preview. So
Exactly.
as they load in like real examples, real data records that they need, or what they're going to show to stakeholders, like they'll be seeing this here in the authoring environment as well. So
Correct.
awesome. Cool. Well, this is neat. Appreciate it, Adam. Hope people get to go explore with us right after this call and take a look.
Great. Thanks, Tim.
All right, cool. So, all right. So yeah, we've been collecting some questions here. So what we'll do now is we'll run through some of them. If we don't get to your question, we can also follow up offline, and we'll point you to some more resources as well, so you can learn more about these topics. Katie, do we have any initial questions to start with?
Yeah, of course. Let's start with Chloe. Can we choose the LLM model and its temperature for the data generation?
Yeah, so by default, the feature comes with a pre-configured model as well as temperatures. So the developers can actually just click a button and quickly fill in the sample data right away without having to think about tuning anything. But under the hood, this is actually powered by a GenAI Connect rule, which Dilip talked about so much just now, and is designed to be overridable. So if a developer does want to have more control, for example, if they want to tweak the temperature, they want to change the prompt, they want to switch to a different model, what they can do is to just override that particular rule and fill in the gaps themselves.
Great, thank you. Let's see, question, can GenAI Connect rule, and Dinesh or Dilip, you already answered this, but let's have it for the whole group here. Can the GenAI, excuse me, I can't talk. Can the GenAI Connect rule parse receipt item lines to fill out an embedded list of line items in the case?
Yeah, sure. I have answered this, but again, I'll explain. Yes, the connect rule can parse a list of line items, provided it's you in your output configuration, if you have chosen the line items as a data object or a case type object basically, and select the cardinality as multiple records. Again, in that level, we support the scalar fields, but if line items has another level of complex object, that is not supported, and that's an enhancement we have in the roadmap to be making.
Okay, thank you. One more for you, Dilip. Can you support multiple attachments at once?
No, today we only support single attachment to be sent in the single LLM call, but that is also an enhancement in the roadmap, and we will be soon be able to complete that.
Great. So Chloe, another one for you. Are all field types supported for this feature?
So this feature is really optimized around the most common and practical field types that developers typically need help with during preview. So it helps with scalar fields such as text, emails, numbers, dates, and URLs and whatnot. And there are some field types that deliberately not supported. So this include things that requires information on system relationships, such as user references or rule references, as well as things such as attachments, which takes a long time for the AI to generate and will cause a huge latency in the call itself.
Gotcha. I'm looking through some of these, sorry. Chloe, how accurate or realistic is the data that gets generated? Can developers actually rely on it for testing?
I would say that the data is realistic enough for our day-to-day testing, especially since if you just want to move through a form quickly and to be able to validate the form, the flow itself. This is because the AI is using things such as the field types, the field names, as well as the overall case context. However, I wouldn't position it as something that actually replaces all testing, but more as a fast starting point. So for example, if you need to have data that that is targeted at very specific edge cases or business critical values, then you might want to adjust them manually to make sure that they pass validations and whatnot. So the way I would describe it is that is a great first pass that saves you a lot of time, but you are still in final control of the data.
Great. Dilip, are there any best practices to leverage while using this feature?
Sure. So like I said, the model capabilities are also documented. We have also made extensive documentation about the attachment analysis and the best practices out there. But to me personally, the usage of the model, depending on your use case is really important. Additionally, when you use the output configuration, you can actually leverage the power of automatic mapping, and you don't have to write specific prompts again in your connect rule to ask the LLM to extract. You just have to define your output structure very well using data modeling capabilities of Launchpad, so that we take the heavy lifting of indicating to the LLM that, hey, this is the user, this is what the user is expecting, and it has to map those fields appropriately well, and you can actually use that easily into your workflows. Again, one important thing is that whenever the model is unable to map those into those fields, we do not break any of your behavior. We just will fill in null or empty values, and you can always debug it from the tracer that you have and proceed with your use cases.
Okay, great. I think that's all the questions that we have for right now.
Okay, cool. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Katie, for walking through those. All right, so I think we'll wrap it up here. So just to briefly mention again, coming up in May 9th, we have our next Launchpad Live community call. Again, we'll be talking about all sorts of different topics, new features, and features that we want folks to really check out. Of course, follow us on LinkedIn to find out about more events as they're happening. And if you go to launchpad.io in the resources, you can get to a bunch of really useful stuff, the release notes, which will have, every week, every couple of weeks, really detailed information about new and extended features. We have our help documentation in there as well. I also want to give a shout out to the AI assistant that while you're developing in Studio, the little purple icon in the upper right, use that. That thing will now source from our documentation. You can chat with it, ask questions, but it also sources from our webinars, from our use cases. So everything that you can find on launchpad.io, you can actually have an interactive chat now with the assistant and actually figure out the best way to do something and figure out where to go instead of hunting through documentation. So please take a look at those. Go to launchpad.io and check out the upcoming events as well. Otherwise, thanks everybody. These were 3 features that I use every day in my Launchpad development, so I hope people get to check them out as soon as they can. And thanks everybody for your participation today. And I think that's it for this Launchpad Live.